Welcome everybody to the webinar here today, where we're going to go over, how to incorporate a pen and tablet into your digital design workflow. And more importantly, if you're like me and, you've designed, 10,000, single crown cases, over the past, handful of years, you start to feel less and less like a designer and an artist, and more like someone that pushes buttons. And bringing, the pen and tablet workflow, into your digital designing is definitely something that, as the webinar is, states is, bringing the art back into the CAD CAM workflow. So that's what I hope I can do for you today. And, some of you, maybe you're on the fence, you haven't decided yet if you're going to purchase a tablet, and you're not really sure how, this all works. Hopefully, if you're one of those people, hopefully, the information I can give you today will, help give you the information you need to decide if you want to bring this in to your workflow. And on the flip side, if you have already purchased your tablet, whether it's a Cintiq Pro, an Intuos, or whatever, I hope, that I can show you, the best way to, set up your tablet and configure your tablet to work the best way that it can with 3Shape. Okay, so to start this off, I mean, a lot of you in the last couple years, you've probably seen quite the uptick in, popularity and interest in the Wacom, the product line and the tablet. You maybe see it at trade shows. I think that they had in Chicago the last couple years at Lab Day, they had some demonstrations. Maybe you got a lab owner friend that got that, the 27-inch monitor in their lab now, and they're all about it. But the truth is, I mean, this technology has been around for a really long time, and this is nothing new. So the question that the question is, it's like, why now? Why is the Wacom pen tablet becoming really popular in the 3Shape community, being that this technology has been out for so long? And to answer that question, the best that I can is, the Wacom company has been around since 1983, and they've pretty much gone through, from the advent of digital design all the way up until today, 3D modeling, all the CAD software out there. They've been there. They're the industry standard, and the question is, like, why is it now? Why has this not been popular from day one? And the reason is that a lot of CAD CAM software is out there, or 3D modeling software is out there, design software is Photoshop, etc. These software packages have been designed from the ground up with a pen and tablet in mind. And so it makes the experience awesome. It's plug and play. It works pretty much out of the box with very little configuration, and all of these different software packages just work really well with this, the pen and tablet system. 3Shape, on the other hand, it's always been designed. Hold on. Yes, I'm going to for sure get into the configuration and the best way to set this up. Just give me a little bit of time, I'll get there. I just want to make sure that everybody else, like you guys already have, the 27-inch monitor, but there are some people here that maybe are on the fence and they're not sure about whether or not they're going to purchase. And we want to make sure that they, have the information that they need to best suit what they're going to be looking for in their workflow as well. So I'm certainly going to go through, you know, the main focus of this is to go through the configuration and how to make it work great with 3Shape, and I'm definitely going to get there. Just give me just a couple minutes to go through this. So, you know, 3Shape has been designed from the ground up with a keyboard and mouse in mind and not a pen and tablet. So the control scheme of the 3Shape software, it doesn't quite, out of the box, plug and play, it doesn't quite work the same way. So if you're someone like Joe in the group here, and you've gone out and you've bought your Cintiq Pro, your 27-inch monitor, you're willing to invest the money, then chances are you've already used it before, and you know, you've already tried out the pen and you absolutely love it. And if that's the case, you know, I'm jealous because I have my Cintiq companion here. It's a 16-inch monitor, and I very much wish I had the 27-inch monitor. But if you're not sure you're ready to invest that money, I think it's about $2,000 to invest into, you know, this monitor, and you just want to try it out. I have a couple different products here. So we have the you know, this is just the Intuos pad. It's pretty standard issue pad. It runs about $80. You get it at Best Buy, and I would recommend, if you've never used a pen before and that you want to you know, kind of get the learning out of the way, you know, getting something like this plugs in all of the software. You know, all of the software here is all universal and the same. So adding something like this to your workflow is certainly a good way to start before you're willing to invest. So once you plug this in, get your tablet all set up, get it plugged in, and you follow the instructions, it's going to have you install software onto your computer, and the software preferences are it's just a basic software here. So this is going to go through, you have your pen, and it has all your different pen options, and it has your function keys. So on the Cintiq, on whether you're left-handed or right-handed, it will flip to suit your needs. But on the Cintiq tablet, you have a series of function keys. You have 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom. You have a rocker ring in the center with a center button. The rocker ring on the Cintiq is 4 buttons. It's left, right, up, and down. If I think with the Pro, I think there might be an option where the rocker ring is actually a touchpad and acts very similarly to a like a third mouse wheel. So depending on the version you have, it's either going to be 4 buttons or it's going to be a mouse wheel. So how do we set this up to best work with 3Shape? So one thing you can do in your help menu in 3Shape, you can go into your user manual. I'm not going to do it right now, but there is a page in the user manual that has a printout list of all of the hotkeys that 3Shape has, and printing those out. I mean, most of you, if you've been designing for a number of years, you kind of have all of your favorite hotkeys that you want to use, that you use on a daily basis, whether it's the control key, shift key, you know, control Z to undo, like whatever the hotkeys that you use most. The goal when configuring this thing is to do whatever you can to pull yourself away from the keyboard. That's the goal. And with the Cintiq, with the preferences you have, in my opinion, you have pretty much like everything you need to do that, to be able to pull it away from your the keyboard. So let's get started. So you'll see I've already configured this to 3Shape, but we're going to start from scratch. And so we'll start with the pen. So the pen, when it clicks onto the tablet itself, that's considered a left click. It's pretty much default that way. It's always going to be that. They don't give you an option to change that. So I don't really count this, even though technically the pen nib that's gonna hit the tablet is considered a button. You can't really configure it, so it doesn't really count. So the buttons that you have on the pen, the buttons that you have on the pen, you basically just have the one on the bottom, one on the top that you can click. And in my opinion, the best way to configure your pen is to make the bottom button your right click and the top button a middle click from the mouse. So when you decide what you're going to choose, it's just a simple drop down menu, and you have all of your different options here that you can you have a bunch of options here that you can choose. So right at the top click, you have your different clicks. So so like I said, so the right click here is going to be, you're not going to be able to see it right now, but the right click will give you the opportunity to move things around. The middle click here will give you the option to pan. And in my opinion, that's the best way to set up your pen. It's going to give you the most intuitive way to move your model around in 3D space with the pen without having to push any extra buttons. So that's the pen. So the next step is your function keys. So we'll start at the top. So I'm left-handed, and you know, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, it doesn't really matter. But on mine, all of my function keys are on the right side. If you're right-handed, keeping your function keys on the left side is the best way to do it, so you're not interrupting your pen, so that your pen is always able to be on the screen. It's the best way to have that set up. So we're gonna actually, before we go into what I have set up as the function keys, we are going to click on the on-screen controls. I'm sorry that I can't make this menu full screen for whatever reason they have it. It's not something that allows me to maximize it. So I'm sorry if this is too small for some of you guys to see. So in here, so what this is, and I'll show you real quick. So if I push this function button, these are my presets that I've created. They're just macros. So I've gone through my, all the different design workflows here. So let me just jump ahead in the design so I can show you. Okay, so now we are in our 3Shape sculpting tools. So if you actually highlight over, I mean, you guys already know this, so I'm just going to just show you real quick anyways, but if you highlight over each option here, it's going to give you the keystroke involved to switch it. So when you go into your option keys here, you can kind of just create a new key assignment. Let me see. So down here at the bottom, like I said, I'm sorry, it's so small, there's a plus key here, and that's going to be create your new panel. So once you hit the plus key, you can decide how you want the panel layout to be. You can have it up and down, you can have it grid-like, you can have it horizontal. I prefer the horizontal configuration, which you can see here with these buttons. But whatever you guys want, you can name it. We'll call it the same thing I called it here, 3Shape. 3Shape sculpt presets. It already exists, blah blah blah. We'll just cancel. So once you create the new one, it's going to give you a new list on your side here. And all of the different keystroke assignments you can add. So you can see with the one I created for this one up here, you know, it can show the keystroke setup. Once you click on a keystroke, it's just going to tell you, like, all you have to do is just create all the different macros that are involved just by going through each tool. So if you, so rather than kind of go through all this, which is kind of boring, I'll just show you. So here's your menu. So if you look over onto the, you know, left, where right now we're in a subtract tool. So if I you know, click on this to add, so add light. Why is this jumping away? Hold on, sorry, it's not locked. Okay, so you can see add light. So now if I go with my pen and, you know, add different strokes, you know, you can kind of just go through and just create this little virtual menu. It may seem a little bit silly to do so, but being able to have these little kind of translucent menus, virtual menus in, you know, in the control panel here on the side with your function keys, you don't have to have them up all the time. And certainly just bringing your pen over here and clicking on that is still something that totally works. You know, just being able to kind of do these things on the fly, it just keeps your pen center stage rather than pulling it off to the side to click buttons. So, you know, you can kind of jump in here, change to different things, like while you are, you know, on the fly trying to move this around without having to stop and move here. It just makes it a little bit more of an efficient workflow. Something I really like. So that's the virtual keys. Like, it's totally, this is kind of your extra step. It's not something that you need to do to create these virtual keypads. It's just something I think is cool. It's a cool little feature that these tablets offer that allow you to kind of create your own custom menus. And this is, and you can kind of go through just playing around with it a little bit. You can kind of see all the different defaults they've created, you know, for different software tools, and you can kind of just figure it out what's best for you and your design style. So the next thing here is, you know, so I have just a couple, and again, you can see just by looking at the menu, I have it very simplified. You know, the most important keys like Control, Shift, right click, center click. The biggest limitation, I would say, with these tablets is the mouse wheel itself. Not having a virtual mouse wheel to be able to kind of zoom your model in and out is probably the only limitation. So, you know, just for myself, if I don't have a mouse available to use the mouse wheel, you can see just down here, I've used the scroll up and the scroll down key. So if I didn't have a mouse available and I wanted to use just a pen, I can use, what the hell? Oh, there we go. So I just have to tap buttons to zoom in and out. It's a little bit slower than, you know, using the mouse wheel. But again, the hybrid between the pen and a little bit of a mouse function here works great if you're left-handed, because I have a gaming mouse here with a bunch of programmable buttons on it, and just being able to use the mouse to control the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and some of the programmable buttons, it allows me to just be focused entirely on the art. But here, let me undo this crown here and just show you some of the different moves that we can do. I am going to turn these off. So if you want to hold on one moment, I will need my assistant Josh to come in and you know, get you a better camera angle so you can actually see what I'm doing with the pen. Yeah, so I'm going to answer this question simply because, yes, if you're, I personally am not a fan of the 3D mouse. It kind of doesn't work well for me. But if it's something that you guys have been using for a long time, the 3D mouse is great to add a few extra functions to just more or less keep your hands off the keyboard. So this is where the fun is. So as you can see, just the flow of being able to move this around and manipulate it with your pen. So you actually don't even need to touch the screen. As soon as you get within range, you can kind of move this around. So we'll just start. Oh, and another function that I use a couple of these function keys for is being able to turn the model on and off with just a push of a button. I think it's like A and D on your keyboard. I just add those as keystrokes to the function buttons. Just makes it easier. So yeah, it's pretty simple. You can just grab on, move things around. It's very intuitive. And one thing that's great is that, in the older versions of 3Shape, these steps, anywhere with little grab on circles here, whether you're in the morphing part or if you're in this transform area, that's where this software, the 3Shape software, has actually come a long way to really incorporate these pen tablets is with these buttons. There was actually a lot of bugs kind of in the earlier software where the pen actually had a hard time grabbing onto these circles, and it kind of got things, made things a little bit frustrating in the design process. So, all right, here we go. Everything look good. All right, so we can move things around. Rotate. This is a little bit under the gun. I got a lot of people looking over my shoulder right now, so this might not be the best design I've ever done in the world, but again, we'll just click on this, attach. So now we will okay, I don't know if you can focus on this. Where are we? Actually, this is the main function for 3Shape that you need to kind of add. So when you're in the sculpting, tool preset here, and you got your add, subtract, and your smooth tool, right here you got your intensity, and you got your draw radius. If you just do a single click on the icon here, it'll actually change to a pen icon. This is the main function that's been added to 3Shape. I think they added it in 2015. Changing it from the regular mouse and keyboard function to the pen function. What this is doing is actually adding the pressure sensitivity, which is the main kind of selling point for these tablets. Is that if I do a stroke here, I'll do an add stroke right now. If I draw really lightly on the screen here, it's going to do a light stroke. But if I bear down on it and actually push harder, it's actually going to do a much more heavy stroke, and it's actually going to seamlessly go, rather than having to go in and change your intensity on the fly, it actually allows you to change your intensity up and down just by how much pressure you put on your screen. It adds that kind of intuitive, much more organic way of design, and it kind of pulls you away from the functions and allows you to just be creative here. Well, creative in that, just the way you design. So it's just being able to add that pressure sensitivity. It also has the same thing for your intensity. And again, it doesn't quite work as well with this, I don't think. It gets bigger as you press down harder. But I find that leaving your draw size and either adjusting it with your mouse wheel or adjusting it with your 3D mouse, and using just the pen here with the intensity of your stroke is the better way to configure it. So we're just kind of going through, smoothing things out. So again, whether you're in add, subtract, or smooth, the harder you push, the more intense your stroke is going to be. Same thing. So that's add, subtract. Same with the, where are we? We're in the morphing now. So on my function keys on the side, so you guys got kind of an outline of being able to see my pen and how it functions on here. I'm actually going to move the camera back, making sure at least one of your keys, your function keys on your tablet, is dedicated to just a control, the control key, to keep your hands off your keyboard. And if you guys aren't familiar with this as a designer, it's definitely something when I was learning, I kind of figured it out on my own here. But when you're in the morphing, you guys know that it's based on how you have it located on your screen. Moving up and down morphs your design. Being able to have the function with the control key, there you go. You can add this black arrow here, and it just gives you, rather than it kind of moving up and down with how it's located on the screen, it's going to move up and down with how much, it's going to go up and down based on the angle of that black arrow. I think it's probably the single most important hotkey for me as a designer. Being able to add, it gives me a better view from any angle. I can add that key. It just gives me more control over the shapes I'm making. All right. So at this point, that's pretty much a brief overview of how to configure your tablet to your computer or to your design software in 3Shape. So at this point, I am going to, now's the time. I'll definitely talk directly with you guys. We're gonna, do a little Q&A part before we finish up here. So any questions you guys have at this point, I will gladly do my best to answer them. So Sven, my favorite 3Shape study group guy, how you doing? What is the intensity setting on the panel for the pen? For me, the intensity, I just left it at the default settings. I've played around with the intensity a little bit. If you're talking about kind of what's going on here, the tilt sensitivity and the tip feel and the pressure sensitivity, I've pretty much just left it at the default. You can certainly play around with these a little bit and find a comfort zone with them, but I find that they pretty much, I feel like the Wacom has done a pretty good job with the pen, just leaving it at the default settings, but you can certainly mess around with them a little bit. Mike, so yes, I do I do use the pen and my mouse in conjunction with it. Like I said before, I'm not a fan of the 3D mouse. I just couldn't develop a feel for it, turning the knob. But if you can see here, I'll do my best to get this in. I actually use, make sure I get a good angle. I actually use, this is just a gaming mouse, an MMO mouse. Has a lot of configurable keys on the side. So using a mouse like this in conjunction with the pen, again, it's designed specific for me and my flow. It's designed to keep my hands away from the keyboard. If I can design every single case I do in a given day without, aside from entering the case numbers to load up the case in 3Shape, if I can keep my hands off the keyboard entirely throughout the course of my day, that is my goal. It's what connects you to your designs, is what connects you to kind of the artistic flow of it all. So, but you know, this mouse might have a lot more buttons on it. I forget how many function keys are on the 3D mouse. I think there's like 8 or 9 or something like that. But there's enough function keys on the 3D mouse to accommodate the same thing. You know, a control key, a shift key, hotkey, a couple different configurations. Okay, Rochelle, so speed, actually, yes, that's an important question. It's something that, you know, actually leading up to doing this webinar to begin with, you know, I had a couple people ask me, like, is it really faster to design that way? And, you know, the truth is, I would be remiss if I didn't say that there is certainly some getting, if you've never used a pen before, it's definitely something that involves a learning curve to it. It definitely has something you need to get used to it, especially if you're like me and you're left-handed, but you grew up learning a computer with your right hand. The difference, starting to use your dominant hand to control everything on your computer, is definitely something that you get used to. And for sure, it's something that not everyone will end up liking at the end. You know, the pen isn't for everybody, I guess, but everybody that I know that gets, you know, the feel for it, especially designing in 3Shape or any other 3D modeling software, they do love it. But as you get used to it, like anything else, the speed in which you're able to design with it will just increase over time. I definitely do recommend, as you don't just jump in and just take the mouse and keyboard away entirely. I would say maybe start designing a handful of units a day if you've bought the tablet already. You know, start with a few units a day, get a feel for it, and work your way up, and then eventually you'll, you know, I would say that it's the exact same speed as using a mouse and keyboard. I don't think it's going to add any speed and efficiency to your design workflow. It's just going to add the, you know, the design, the artistic feel, the design feel, that kind of tangible feeling that you're actually working on the crown rather than just clicking things. Abby, let's see. Abby, yeah, we're just talking about the Wacom tablets. You know, there are other the main competitors on the market. The Wacom brand is pretty much the standard in digital design. Pretty much every design company, whether it's film, TV, movie, and all the way up, you know, coming to you know, digital dentistry now. It's pretty much the industry standard, but you know, there are other tablets and pens on the market, the Microsoft Surface now, the iPad Pro. But I will say that if you go for the iPad Pro, I don't know how well it would really work with 3Shape specifically, just because from my experience using it, it's way more geared towards illustration than it is for 3D modeling. So I'm not really sure how well that would work. The Microsoft Surface, same thing. They're definitely geared way more towards 2D, Photoshop, things like that, and less on 3D modeling. Was I an analog technician prior? No, I actually came into this industry you know, I learned everything I know digitally. So all my design knowledge I learned digitally. But I did come from a traditional art background. I was a sculptor, mold maker. So I did a lot of different things that kind of, I was a special effects artist. So a lot of the things that I worked on and did transferred pretty well to the analog system. In you know, I worked with a lot of dental acrylics, making monster teeth, things like that. So I was not a traditional CDT ahead of time. I learned everything digitally, but I got really into 3D sculpting before I started working here. And so I've been using a pen since about 2009. So Akira, did I try to use the express key? So are you talking about, what are we talking about right now? Are we talking about, yeah, so we're talking about the express key, the function keys on the side. Yeah, so if you look at my configuration right now, I mainly have a control key, I have a shift key, and then I have a scroll up and scroll down to zoom in and out. I have the Cintiq, the Companion 2. So this acts very much like a laptop or a tablet. So and it definitely has the computing power to run 3Shape on it. So if you're going to go for, I think they call them the Mobile Studio Pro now. They changed the name, but it's essentially the same thing. And the software package, or the hardware of the PC functions pretty well. I don't know how well it would work with scanning, but it would definitely work with the design software, and you can treat it very much like a tablet or laptop. You could design your work. I don't know that your boss would appreciate you having your feet up sitting on a couch, but you can definitely sit this on your lap and design pretty seamlessly. I don't have the Cintiq Pro, like the 27-inch monitor. If they're comparably the same amount of money. So I think this is about $2,000, and then the Cintiq Monitor Pro is the same thing. It's about $1,800, $2,000, something like that. But that thing is awesome. It's a huge screen. Anyone on here that has it will attest that it's the best thing that you can get for your money. Is the Cintiq Monitor Pro, preferably the 27-inch one. And it has kind of this clamp system that clamps to your desk and allows you to treat it like a digital drafting board. But the same thing, it has the function keys on the side. And I would highly recommend making sure you have Control Shift, scroll up, scroll down. And for me on the rocker key here, or the rocker ring, I have my prep and posing, being able to turn it on and off and undo, just adding as many highly used hotkey functions is adding those to your express keys to keep your hands off the keyboard is the goal. Oh, 2700. Sven knows what's up. I know he has one, and like anyone, like if you can go, like there's a few videos you can see on the internet, and you can see the how it works in general. But yeah, I'm all about the Cintiq Pro, the 27-inch monitor. Like I want one really, really bad. It's a wonderful piece of hardware. It works great. Is it Exocad compatible? Same thing. And I said this earlier. I feel that all of the different software, whether it's Exocad based, 3Shape, Sirona, or any other digital dentistry design software, it is going to function, but it doesn't quite have the plug and play ease that the tablets do with other softwares, because a lot of these the digital dentistry software packages were designed for kind of the older folks, the older analog guys, to sell them on transitioning and making the learning curve. Designing it with a mouse and keyboard in mind just made the learning curve of being able to operate this software a little bit easier. So now that some of the younger people and people that are really interested in this kind of technology, the pen and tablet, are kind of starting to enter the field, there's a lot more demand for options inside these softwares to make them function better. But we don't use Exocad in our laboratory here, but I can say probably for certain that you should be able to get it to function. It just might take a little fiddling with the preferences to get it to work properly for you. Um, Eric, yes, I believe that we are going to edit everything together and put it on our YouTube channel at some point. Not sure when that's going to go up, but yes, it will. So if anyone has any last questions, we can certainly you know, wrap this up for you guys. I definitely want to make sure everyone here is informed. If you want my overall opinion, if you guys are on the fence and you have not purchased one yet, I would highly recommend getting one, because as a designer, as an artist, you know, when we start to focus more on efficiency and speed in our designs, and we want to get down to 4-minute crowns and things like that, it really takes the artistic, you know, heart away from this work, and I think that's a bummer and a shame. And I think that if we can, you know, utilize, you know, a pen and tablet to kind of bring back the artistic feel into your design workflow while still maintaining that efficiency, I think it's a no-brainer. You should definitely give it a shot. You know, even if you just go to Best Buy and get the $80, you know, simple pad with a couple buttons on it, just to give it a try before you're willing to invest, I would certainly look into it. That would be my opinion. There are two different types of the Cintiq product line. There is the Cintiq Mobile Studio Pro, which is pretty much what this is. This is just the older model from a couple years ago now, but it's the same thing. And this thing is a PC and it is a tablet monitor. So there's actually a cable here. Let me just put this up. You can see this cable sticking out the side. It is a special kind of, it comes with it. It's a special USB HDMI cable. So if you have a specific design PC at your lab that you need to plug into, this thing will plug into it, and it will actually turn the PC part of this off, and it will turn this into just a straight monitor. But then if you want to unplug this and use it as a laptop, it has its own Windows operating system on it. It is a piece. It is basically a laptop. The Cintiq Pros, they are just a tablet monitor. There is a lot of technology going on the inside, but it is not a self-sustaining PC. It does need a PC to connect to in order to function. But yeah, that's just the difference between the two. So pretty much the Cintiq Pro tablet monitor is going to kind of sit. It's not really a thing that's very portable, whereas this thing, like I said, acts as a laptop. What's the biggest case? I've designed a couple full arch screw retained bridges on this one. Not full upper and lower, but definitely a full upper or a full lower. I've done a couple full roundhouse cases. I didn't see, the thing is, I'm not operating 3Shape on, I think it might be pretty limited. You're talking about the computing power. I don't have 3Shape on the PC of this itself. Like when I use this for work, I'm connecting it to my design PC and using it as a monitor. So I do it that way, and in that regard, it doesn't have any. It's no different than designing using the monitor. I do not have 3Shape on that. This is my personal computer, so I do not have 3Shape on here. So I'm not really sure. I have heard that the graphics card can handle pretty well for the most part. It can get you can get some pretty big cases, but yeah, there'll probably be some slowdown, in some of the big full arch cases, things like that. No, so the dongle setup, how you have your 3Shape dongle. If I was operating this 3Shape on this as a computer, there's a lot of USB slots on the side here. You'd have to plug the dongle directly into it. But how we're set up as a network, I can, like I said, can just connect this to my computer, and it's really just acting as a separate monitor. It's not really, there's no extra dongle steps or anything like that that you should need to be able to get this thing to work properly. So if there's any other questions, I'd like to answer them now, but otherwise I'd like to, you know, just kind of to wrap this up and thank you guys so much for your time. And I hope that, you know, anything I said here today, you know, helps inform you in either, you know, being able to configure this for your 3Shape designing needs, or gets you to maybe start thinking about really picking up one of these. But with that, I think we'll say goodbye. So thank you guys so much for your time. And you know, if you missed anything today, oh wait, let me ask. Well, what was the name of? Okay, you know, I'll answer that. Then I'll say goodbye. I think they're called the Intuos Draw. You can get it at Best Buy. It's about $80. I think there's a new version of it that has a few extra buttons on it. It is not a monitor. It is just a tablet. So you're still going to be kind of staring at the monitor while you're using the pen, but it's a good segue into getting into using the pen and designing. So yes, so with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and thank you guys so much for your time, and have a great day.